Hi, I'm Lenny Shedletsky. I'm here with three colleagues to present to you students find their voice in planning for life and citizenship after college. We got together some years ago, and as four faculty, each with a great deal of years of teaching behind us, we sensed that as students were approaching graduation, there was an anxiety issue with graduating. There was a kind of a silent, unspoken concern that seemed to be going on with many students. So we looked into it by doing some survey research and focus groups on juniors and seniors at our four-year university, a regional university. And what we found was that there was indeed a great need that students had to deal with this transition that they were coming to of leaving school and entering life outside of school, after school. So we spent time constructing a course that we thought would meet the needs of the graduating student. We also looked around and saw that there was essentially nothing being done at not only our university, but universities generally with regard to this issue of a student being troubled by the impending transition. We've reviewed the clinical literature and found that in addition to the transition, which is quite sudden and jarring, of leaving a structure that students had known all their lives into an unknown culture, there was also a well-known stage of emerging adulthood for college-age people. And it turns out that that literature is telling us that this can be a time fraught with real danger for students who do not make the transition well. They are emerging into a time in their life when they'll be expected to be more responsible for themselves, solve problems, pay the bills, make a living, have a job, and so on. We also found that given the high-speed changes in the world due to technology, that our current college-age students fall into the category of what's been called I generation, meaning these are people who've always lived in a world with digital technology. And it turns out that the I-Genners are generally behind previous generations in terms of getting out into the world, leaving their parents, solving their own problems, getting a job, and supporting themselves and driving a car, having an intimate relationship. They, for some reason, and I suppose we can speculate, that seems to correlate with the world of digital technology. This generation is is struggling a bit more than previous generations in terms of emerging into young adulthood. So we put together a course, seminar style, so that we could speak to individuals, and we began to offer this course with at least 2 teachers present, sometimes all 4 of us. And we, our initial knee-jerk reaction to teaching was more or less, to be the expert at the front of the room, and we learned pretty quickly that what worked well for these students was focusing on their reflecting on where they've been, on their autobiography, on who they are, what it is they really want, what they are concerned about. We found in our survey that what our students are most concerned about is having a happy life after college, having a satisfying career, being able to use their education, being able to pay the bills. What they're not most concerned about is money. Only to the extent that money is needed to fulfill these other requirements. So more and more, we have shaped our course to try to bring out from our students what it is they're dealing with in terms of this transition. What are their concerns, and what can we do to help? And we find that what helps most is encouraging our students to reflect on the issues of happiness and goals and values, a meaningful life. And also, they appreciate getting some help with the how-tos in this transition. How to find a job, how to write a resume, how to act at a job interview, how to manage their money. So we think of the course as really dealing with the nuts and bolts of the how-to. And what we, especially the faculty teaching the course, what we especially focus on are the abstract concepts of happiness, a meaningful life, mindset, resilience, agency, support. We bring in experts that deal with the nuts and bolts, wonderful people who come in from the Center for Success, and the students absolutely love and benefit from learning the how-tos. We bring in a financial advisor. We bring in a panel of alumni who've been out for some years and who tell their story of how they went from graduating to where they are. We are as open as we can be about our own lives and who we are and how we got here. And our students respond quite well to all of that. They are willing to reflect and try to figure out how to make the problem of the transition work best for themselves. So what's going to happen is my colleague Jeanette Antonian is going to come in next, talk about some of the concepts from the course that she feels strongly about. And then Dennis Gilbert is going to do the same. And finally, Professor David Bantz is going to talk about the OER that we have built an open educational resource. We want to share this course with any teacher who would like to make use of it free of charge. And so he's going to tell you what we've done in building that material into a website and how to access it. So I'm going to step aside and allow my colleagues to step in.
Hi, I'm Dennis Gilbert, and I teach writing at the Media Studies program at the University of Southern Maine. And I'm here with my colleague, Jeanette Andonian.
Hi there. I am a professor of social work here at the University of Southern Maine. And Dennis and I are here to talk to you a little bit about a course that we developed with two other colleagues across disciplines called Launching into Life After College.
So this all started about, what, 8 years ago?
Something like that.
Yeah. And it started with the notion that maybe there was a need for a course like this. Mm-hmm. And so to follow up on that, we started doing some research.
Yeah, we gathered data from juniors and seniors at our own university. We ran focus groups and then later developed a survey based on that focus group data, what we learned from the focus groups, and crafted questions to send out to a wider swath of students. We had about a sample of about 145 students respond to that. But what we learned collectively, we learned a lot collectively from the focus groups and the survey data, that there was one of the major findings was the high level of anxiety students were experiencing as they face the college transition. And also, it was pretty explicit in the research that students really wanted some kind of off-ramp course or some sort of exit year course to be offered to them as they make the transition out of college.
So the four of us, and four people coming from about a century and a half of teaching experience, but coming from four very different disciplines, started to work on developing some way to make a course that would enhance the likelihood that the transition for these students would be successful.
Right, so we worked on the course, on the development of the course for about a year before we did a pilot. And it was, again, based on the research findings. And there were two concepts from that ground the course, and the kind of theoretical grounding of the course is based on theories of identity development, psychosocial identity development, and resilience. And how these two concepts are important to the course is that we recognize the college transition as a period of time where identity is kind of called into question, and there's a period of disequilibrium. And in the literature, the psychology literature, theorists like Erik Erikson talk about adolescence as a period of time where identity is solidified. But we now also know now that that extends through the period of emerging adulthood, through the early 20s, and maybe even until the age of 30, when people really forge and solidify a sense of who they are. And so the course recognizes that this is a period of developmental disequilibrium in this transitional period that can be filled with both with excitement and hope and aspiration, but also uncertainty, fear, and self-doubt. So the course recognizes that people, don't have it all together, and they shouldn't have it all together, and we're here to help them to get from point A to point B. The second concept is resilience, which is essentially about the capacity to bounce back in the face of challenges, to be buoyant during periods of change. So the course helps students to foster the characteristics needed to increase buoyancy as they move forward in their lives. Would you add to that?
Yeah, I think another thing that we recognized was that the population we were serving was a set of people, a group of people who had been in formal schooling all of their lives, and now they were facing the end of that period, for the most part, the end of that period of formal schooling. And we also recognized that throughout their undergraduate career, virtually no attention was devoted formally to the most important factor in the whole equation, which is the students themselves. So we wanted to develop a course that actually foregrounded reflective, reflective exploration for the students themselves. They were not only the subject of the study, but they were also the world's leading experts on the subject. And the process of the course was for them to really take a look at themselves and figure out essentially how they arrived where they are, what experiences influenced their values, what values informed their decision making, and all of this is as a preparation for the transition that lies ahead of them at the moment.
I think we've had students who come into the course thinking that they know where they're going or what they need to do, and some of those people really do hone that and move forward. And other students will say, "Hey, I thought this is where I was going, but I realized that actually I'm not being true to myself here, and this is not really what I want to do." And it gives them permission to be on that journey, to figure out what their next steps will be. Um, and I think the course also actually sees, so the idea of success that is a high priority in higher ed. These days, we recognize success as more of a journey than a destination in this course, and I think the students really benefit from that way of looking at it.
We also knew from the start that this course needed to be a team-taught course, and we were lucky enough to have a dean who supported that decision, and we wanted it to be a team-taught course and a seminar at the same time. So the student-to-teacher ratio has been 2 instructors of record to 15 students in the room. Those 2 instructors of record are often working with a bench of 2 other instructors who happen to be sitting in the room and are ready to contribute. And probably the term instructor isn't exactly the most accurate, the most apt one for this particular situation, because we also knew that we wanted the content of the course to be primarily user generated. So we, all 4 of us, brought concepts and methods and ideas from our separate disciplines to bear on the content of the course, but mostly it's based in student-generated discussion.
I think the other thing that I would add to that is that we also, as the instructors of the course, share our own personal journeys with students, which is really validating to them. Here we are, we've all achieved a certain stature in our respective disciplines, yet we all went through what they're going through.
Yes.
So I think it's very helpful for them to see that. So there's a lot of conversation about that as well.
We not only share our own personal journeys, but also our own awkward moments at times,
Yeah.
because one thing that is, if there's anything that you can predict in a course like this, it's that something unexpected is going to come up, and that at least the 2 teachers of record are going to be put on the spot to address some issue or idea that they hadn't worked out in advance. So it's actually an excellent fringe benefit, I guess, of this course, that we find ourselves sort of thinking out loud in a public forum, trying to come to grips with a notion and in the process discover something we hadn't known about each other, about how each other thinks. And that's actually great modeling for students of the process of continuous learning, negotiating your way through an issue you hadn't really had time to think about, and a good model for the lifelong learner that we hope we find in each of our students.
I think just, and how that kind of comes about in the class, for each class, there's a general kind of theme to talk about, right? For
Yes,
each,
that's
for each,
right.
it could be about happiness one week, or it could be about personal values. But the instructors are open to taking it in whatever direction it happens to go. So it's rather iterative in the process of teaching the course by necessity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else can we talk about here? I think
Well, I think we can talk about what's in it for the instructors.
The instructors,
right?
yeah.
Since we're ultimately hoping that other people who are teaching, at least at the undergraduate level, will take advantage of the knowledge and
model.
the model. Yeah, take advantage of the model that we've developed over a period of time. And so I just want to back up a little bit and add here that before we started developing this course, we had come together as a group of 4 faculty who wanted to work on some sort of service-oriented project that could merge our collective expertise in some real-world application. And so we actually did work on a project together for a couple of years before we began developing this course. By then we had developed such a kindredness of team spirit and such an effective way of working together. And at least speaking for myself, we had learned so much from each other that the idea of disbanding this group just didn't seem right. So that was 8 years ago, and we started working on this course. It's a great reward. Team teaching for me is the ultimate in professional development, and it's been so rewarding over this long period of time. It always seems to renew itself, just as teaching at the undergraduate level always seems to renew itself, because there's one new cohort after another, and fields are always changing, and new trends are finding their way in. So it's really a wonderful exercise in adaptability. The other thing I would add here is that teaching in this course with these colleagues has allowed me to bring a lot of treasures back to my own courses. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to teach from the intro 100 level all the way through the capstone. And I've brought a lot of ideas and practices from this course and these people back into my own classroom. It's been great.
Yeah, I would add to that about how we're all adept at teaching in our specific disciplines, and understand the content of those disciplines, and we have our own teaching approaches. But this is an opportunity to take teaching to another level. It really is quite a unique endeavor. Witnessing student growth is really heartening, and it reminds me all the time of why I went into teaching to begin with. And I think it's and engaging students who are from other disciplines is really rewarding and enriching, I find. And as Dennis said, he from teaching launching into life after college, that way of teaching also extends back into our own classrooms in our own disciplines as well. And I've learned a lot about myself in the process of teaching the course, And I think that my teaching skills have really advanced as a result of teaching the course. So I think the other thing is that this course um, recognizes the realities, the new realities facing college students in this particular point in history. That graduating from college and moving on into a job and launching a career is not as simple as it used to be. And I think it's something, so it calls for extra support to offer students at that particular juncture in life. So.
I think also I'd like to mention that there is a sort of inherent celebratory feature to this course in the sense that students very seldom get a chance to look back over the long pathway that they've been following through their undergraduate work and achievements and milestones passed and so on. And this course actually it's a framework of doing exactly that, looking back over that period of time with an eye on the future. One of the focus group questions that we asked students was, tell us about something that made you proud in your undergraduate career. And it was really such a rewarding experience for us to hear students talk about high points in their career. It really made us realize we need to emphasize that as part of this course as well.
So we're hoping that what you take from this is that we've piqued your curiosity and your interest in using our model, developing it, extending it into your own universities, and we're open to communicate with you about that after this presentation. And I think we're sharing our contact information in the documents that are provided. So we find the course to be incredibly rewarding for us and for students, and think that it's quite important at this particular point in history to offer courses like this at the university level.
And as follow-up, our colleague David Bantz will be telling you about our most recent initiative, which is to establish an open educational resource based on the experience we've accumulated in teaching, launching into life after college.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm David Bantz. I'm a member of the team of 4 that designed and have taught launching into life after college. I'm going to refer to the course as LiLaC in this part. And I'm here to tell you about a new initiative in the LiLaC project. That is to make all of the materials that we've developed that we use to teach LiLaC available as open educational resources. An open educational resource is a free web available part of the course, for example, an assignment or a lesson plan that is intended for use by prospective instructors in their own versions of LiLaC. So why did we decide to put the effort into trying to make LiLaC an open educational resource? Really, we had 3 reasons. One is that we believe that LiLaC addresses a universal problem, that in higher education, everyone, virtually all students, have to make that transition out of the academic setting into the life that follows. And that transition, as others have noted, is full of anxiety and tough choices. We also wanted to make LiLaC available to the broadest possible audience, because that increases the chance that the materials will be reused. And it also exposes LiLaC to new audiences and the ideas and the insights and the experiences that other people will have when they teach LiLaC. The challenges for making LiLaC an open educational resource is that it's not a textbook intensive class. There aren't any textbooks that really fit the class particularly well because the students are really teaching themselves. The classes are highly interactive, and it is the dynamics of that interaction that is the essence of learning in LiLaC. The kinds of issues that teaching LiLaC presents are how to kickstart a constructive discussion. That is, what are the topics that are on the minds of the students, and how can this result in a productive discussion among them? And also, how does a prospective teacher of LiLaC get started? Without a textbook, it's kind of difficult to imagine sitting down and designing a course based on LiLaC, much less actually delivering it. And so the materials that we provide or will provide as open educational resources intend to address this problem as best we can. So the initiative to make LiLaC available as an open educational resource centers around the construction of a comprehensive website. And let me show you that website. So this is the home page of the website, and it gives you a sense of what's on it. So for example, in the section on downloads, there are annotated lesson plans, things like, how long does this particular topic traditionally take when we have a discussion of it. The assignments, some of which are writing assignments, the readings that we ask the students to read as, again, drivers of discussion, and a few of the modules. I'll show you some of them. Happiness, which is a really great module. It's an awful lot of fun. We have a module in which we ask alumni to come back and have a panel discussion with our students. The alumni tell their stories of how they made that transition from academia to the life after it. The website that I've just shown you is still very much in an alpha version. There's a good deal of work, as you can imagine, in putting something like this together. Our timeline is that it would be available to the general public sometime in the fall of 2023. And if you'd like to be notified of when it does become publicly available, there's an easy way. So this is me. I'm at the University of Southern Maine, and this is my email address, david.bance@maine.edu. Send me an email, and I'll be happy to put you on the list of people to be notified. And now I'd like to turn the podium over to Lenny Shedletsky to give you some final thoughts on LiLaC.
Hi. We want to end this presentation with some thoughts we have about the implications of teaching LiLaC. So that's a giant area with tons of possibilities. To organize it a little bit, let's chop it up into practical and theoretical implications. And also, let's ask implications for whom? So implications for students, implications for the university, implications for the teacher, and for society. So let's start with some practical implications for students. What are some of the benefits of taking this course. The obvious one that, as we see it, is the students love the course. So it's an enjoyable experience. We suspect it's enjoyable because it meets many needs that the student has, psychological, practical needs that the student has. And it fits well with their learning experience and comes just at the right time to alleviate some of the fear of the unknown that's just ahead. So we think that is a very clear implication of the course for the student. It's a very practical one. We would think that the student comes out of the course with a clearer understanding of themselves, with some experience in reflecting on themselves, and at the same time discussing with others what they're finding. This, for many people, is eye-opening to find out that, one, that's a fascinating topic for most people. It's a powerful one that runs throughout our lives to try to understand as we go along more and more about who we are, how we work. And a third major implication for the student is that it helps to set up next steps in what's otherwise a very confusing time of life and a scary time. So it allows the student to get a bit of a handle on the situation, gain confidence, and a sense of agency, and somewhat of a plan. Very, very powerful benefits for the students. For the university, we believe that an implication of the course is it increases retention, increases how many students go on to graduate, and to graduate in a successful way, where they are prepared to take next steps. From the fairly small amount of data we have to work with, we find that almost 90% of the students that we could track are either still at our college or have graduated. We can't really track every one of them, or we haven't. It would be difficult. So we believe that one of the conclusions is that, at least for the people who've taken our course, there's a great likelihood that they will go on to finish school and graduate. For the university, those are currently very important outcomes: retention and successful graduations. For the teacher, there's a great personal benefit and a practical one of teaching the course. And that is, if you teach the course in a way that allows the student to see you as a person and to explore along with you, in a sense, you're taking the course with them. And it's impossible to not apply what is going on in the course to yourself. So you stand a great chance of learning openly with your students and growing as a person, as a teacher, and that's very powerful. At whatever age or stage of life you're at, there's a likelihood that it will be something that you will reflect upon as well about yourself. So, which in a way spills over into another area. And that I'll say a little bit about a little further on, and that is, what is education for? As for society, society benefits from having successful citizens. Society benefits in that more people are content with their lives and are productive. The employer benefits from having hires that fit well, hires that are making a good choice in their work lives and their personal lives, and are more likely to be happy and therefore more productive, good workers. And that could avoid expensive bad hires. On the theoretical side, let's look at teaching and learning, which we've touched on briefly. The course has affected all four of us teachers. It's a new experience in the classroom for us. And it's one that's feels like it's a maturing, a more willing attitude to be yourself, to share that with your students, to openly explore and allow them to be available to see what's going on with you as you explore, and for them to try it themselves. That's very powerful. And it both touches on how you teach, but also on how you think about learning and what learning is all about. For the student, an important theoretical implication is that learning may be seen by them in a new light. Instead of seeing learning as limited to acquiring information that's offered in a course, learning may be seen more broadly as under one's power to explore, under one's determination to ask whatever is of interest to that person, to courageously pursue an answer. If that happens, and we believe that LiLaC is offered in such a way that that's very possible, that's a very, very powerful, transformative educational experience, and one that both the teacher and the student may share and may find really changes not only how they are in the classroom, but how they are generally. There's finally a theoretical implication for higher education itself, meaning it raises the question, what is education for? Which is such a fundamental question for all teachers to ask. And depending on how you answer it, has the possibility of affecting what you teach, how you teach. And so there, I think there's a great possibility for implications for theory of teaching. We're going to end it there, and thank you. Bye now.